Hello fellow humans and welcome to this week's tank review, and we start off with something lovely. It's the resource drawer, and that is resources are good. These don't include credits, which is nice, so these can be pretty useful. Unfortunately, I do include crates, which I absolutely do not recommend. However, this subscription for gold and XP is excellent if you remember to log in for the entire 30 days. And then we go to the tank section, and we got the T95 E6 here, and more on that vehicle later. The Panzer B2 is a meme, and Undog will come after you if you buy it, so don't. The Panzer 5-4 is also a meme. It is kind of funny. If you want to bully people in Tier 5, which I don't recommend, this thing can be fun if you have gold to throw away, but obviously it's not a main premium tank. By any means, these ×5s are free, which is nice. But yeah, this thing is still a solid-ish bundle if you are looking to sell this vehicle for 2,500 gold. And then we have the fully armed down here with the Kunzepanzer and the M4 FL10, which both are very... Why would you buy them? So these are not vehicles that you should consider purchasing, just like you should not be considering purchasing the 047, which might be a nicer designed tank, but not a nicely balanced tank. That is definitely not worth it, and isn't going to get you as many credits as you want, which is what you want to have in a premium tank. Then the Chieftain Mark 6 is still an excellent choice. It might be a bit harder to play than some other tier 10 premium tanks like a Super Conqueror, but the stealing of this vehicle is extremely high. If you get all of it out of this tank, if you use the hash, this can be an excellent tank and can be absolutely worth it because it can pretty much do anything. Now, with good at everything, you can also sort of describe the Centurion Mark 5-1. I made a more detailed look at this vehicle last week's shop review, so you can check that out then, but I do recommend this vehicle quite a bit. 7.5k, it's fine. These are going to be gone once the video comes up, so ignore them. Don't buy camos. If you have the double offers, they're still pretty good. Definitely recommend them. And then we have the Unstoppable Friends, the Progetto 46 and the Samoa SM for 15.5k. Now the problem with that is the T54 E2 and the T77 just went out of the shop, which means if it didn't get those two don't make much sense. Now, the Progetto on face value is a good vehicle. The problem is you need to be a very good player to get something out of this because you have no armor and horrible standard penetration. Then the Samoa is basically a batshot gun mounted onto a tier 8 heavy tank with horrible DPM. Armor is perfectly fine. You can pin the turret for pretty much most of the part because this is flat. The upper plate's pretty hard to pin. Side is very weak. It's French. So, all in all, it is a solid vehicle. However, again, is something that requires quite a lot of skill. So if you are a good player, and if you haven't picked up the T54E2 and the T77, you should wait for those to come back. And down here, we have the worst section of all, the container section. And you know what they say about containers. In other news, there is a new 2-class event, the top class. If you buy things in the shop, you can earn these start buttons or whatever the hell. If you buy things, you can earn the M4 Yo and also the SDG and the MX Defender, but you don't buy those. If you buy from the shop, you can, for example, get 600 with this massive gold bundle, and that is not enough. You need 900 to get the vehicles, so the other thing is a rip-off. Yes, there is going to be people that want this because they're weebs. What should interest you, however, is the bottom row down here. You can unfortunately get a mystery box, but at least it's free. That's the only good thing about crates. So if they're free, they're fine. But don't get crates. And you can also get the high score, which you can sell for the price of 250 gold. But it's better than nothing. What is this tank trying to be? If it wants to be a medium tank, then you have the 20-ton heavier, more mobile, more accurate E50M as a way better alternative. If you want it to be a heavy tank, you have something like a Super Conqueror or a Chieftain Mark 6 that are way better at the heavy tank portion. Because of the armor on this vehicle, well, let's have a look. It has a Massacre Polo, which means playing hull down is pretty much impossible unless the enemy can't aim. The turret itself is also very pennable at 225mm. The upper plate is somewhat strong-ish, but you can still pen it with most premium rounds or even some standard rounds right through the front. The lower plate's a weak spot for everything. The side's only 76mm and is flat, so you can't side scrape either. Basically, the armor on this thing is essentially useless. Now, I consider this to be the Jeff Hardy of tanks. Enigmatic, fast, high-flying, and can't say no to getting wasted. The problem with this vehicle is that it is not really good at being a heavy tank, and it is not really good at being a medium tank, which means if you're a beginner or average or an intermediate player, it immediately disqualifies itself for ever being relevant to you, which means that only remains advanced players that are in question for obtaining this vehicle. If you're not an advanced player, stay away from it already. Now, if you're an advanced player, what do you have on offer here? You have a very solid yet inaccurate gun that can pretty much do anything if it hits, and you have mobility that is gonna get you all over the place. However, it's not like an E50M where you have 20 tons more and the better mobility and absolutely excellent armor. This vehicle essentially has no armor in terms of a heavy tank. You can pen the sides of the turret, you can pen the top of the turret, you can pen the front plate, you can pen the sides, you can pen it anywhere except the gun methods and the upper front plate, which is obviously not good, which requires a very skilled player to pull this vehicle off. And even then, if you are a skilled player, I would still rather get a Leopard 1 with even more excellent mobility and gun than this tank. So basically, you have a premium tank that is only targeted a specific group of players. For those kind of players, there are tanks that work better, which is why I'm really not a fan of this vehicle. Now, the thing is, the player always matters more than the tank. So if you happen to have this vehicle and you're an average player and you do great with it, congratulations, that is very wonderful. But obviously, each player has different playstyles, different ways of adapting, and if your playstyle happens to fit exactly with how this tank works, beautiful. Now, the problem with that is, it's not true for everyone. And I try to recommend as broadly as possible. And we have a tank as narrow of a performance window as this one, where the difference between 0 damage and 4,000 damage is you, and only you, then I find it a hard time ever giving a recommendation to vehicles like this, because you can get better things. You can, for example, get the Chieftain Mark 6. You have an easier vehicle. The Chieftain Mark 6 has an equally extremely high ceiling of what it can do, but it is easier to start off with. And it's slower, yes, but as a heavy tank, it works a lot better because, to be fair, this isn't a medium tank killer. If you have a competent medium tank player, they're not gonna hesitate to take this vehicle out. Because, in the end, it's neither a heavy tank nor a medium tank. It tries to be a heavium. A heavium has to be done really well, like an E50M. Or it can be done really badly, like an IS-8. This one's sort of in the middle of those two. It can work amazingly, but you need to be a really good player to extract the most out of this tank. Overall, again, you're an advanced player. If you already have your Super Conquerors, your Concept 1Ps, your Chieftains, you might as well. However, if you're anyone else, then Super Conqueror, a Chieftain, a VK90 would do you a lot better than this one. And that's the problem. It itself isn't really that bad of a vehicle, and as you see in this battle, you can get a lot out of it. The problem is, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has competition, and the competition is better at being player friendly, and in terms of the armor, also better at the armor.